Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coaching and Consulting Insight series on the Success Insight podcast. The Coaching and Consulting Insight series introduces you to coaches and consultants who work with leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals to create their best lives and achieve and perform at their full potential. Dr. Matt Barney is our guest on the podcast today. Matt describes himself as a serial founder, and he is an organizational psychologist and an expert in the science and technology field and the use of psychometric instruments in the workplace. He continues to work closely with Dr. Robert Cialdini, the world's foremost expert on the study and practice of the art of persuasion. For the last 15 years, Matt has been perfecting the use of artificial intelligence with psychometrics, and he is close to launching a new AI application incorporating Cialdini's persuasion model to measure and coach professionals throughout the organization. Matt, it is a pleasure to have you on the Coaching and Consulting Insight series. Welcome.
Great to be with you. And it is launched. The app is launched. It's just in beta.
It's launched. It is in beta. Okay. And I am really excited to hear more about this app, the CialdiniBot. And for our listeners, I have actually had the pleasure of getting to know Matt for, I think we're going on about 8 or 9 years. We met probably 2012, 15 timeframe when you had another app that you had developed, Leader
Right.
Amp. And so we've stayed in contact, we're making connections, but in this day and age, today, you can't go anywhere with hearing about artificial intelligence. And I saw your post on LinkedIn. You were just going to be giving a speech presentation at a university. And I was curious, what is CialdiniBot and how is this going to make us better persuaders in whether for our own lives and our work and in the marketplace? So let's hear more about this.
Glad to talk about it. So this has been an important part of my career since I was an undergrad. And I ended up learning to teach. I'm the only organizational psychologist Dr. Cialdini allows to teach and coach his stuff. But these things are deceptively simple, and you can't have a rock star level Dr. Cialdini with you all the time. So that's what CialdiniBot's supposed to be doing in your pocket. A kind of AI, you could ask it a question or practice in a safe place, or just evaluate, is the approach I'm planning to do good before I do it? So it's a flight simulator for ethical influence.
So is this an application that's on our phone? Is it on a PC? Both? I mean, how do I learn about it, and how do I turn a device or an app like this into a tool that I can use? Because you just said it's deceptively simple. To help us understand that.
Sure. So yeah, it's browser based, both mobile or on your cloud, whatever browser device you want to use, it works. So as long as you got an internet connection, you can use it. And the idea is ideally before you go to the job interview, before you create your marketing materials to try and influence customers to buy or at least to explore, before, as a lawyer, before you go to court, can I get some feedback? So basically telling CialdiniBot, typing it, or you can even speak into it if you want. Here's my situation. What am I overlooking? We all have blind spots. This is one of Cialdini's ideas of having inattentional blind spots. So CialdiniBot not only helps you overcome your blind spots, but most people, even experts in persuasion, get a lot of the science wrong. It helps be sort of your buddy, your sleuth buddy, to make sure you don't miss something and that you're making the persuasive appeal as strong as possible. Uniquely, you can even get it to measure you in a very precise way. That's what University of California at Berkeley asked me to talk about a month ago. I went to great scientific detail on why this works the way it does. For regular people, it's pretty quick. So quick, easy, before I go persuade, can I get it right so I don't leave anything on the table? That's the basic use case.
So I'm curious, if we stay in the consulting, coaching realm, an area that I work in is professional development. It is typically I need to network and have conversations and learn more, help my client to learn more about opportunities that might be available to him or her. How would a this type of individual, let's say he or she is a manager level, entry level manager, wants to go from a manager one level to say a manager two, or maybe even, let's be generous, maybe even they become a director. How would
Sure.
they begin to use CialdiniBot for that purpose?
Yeah, great example. First, they just start out typing out that situation and saying what they're planning on doing, just like you would in a regular coaching engagement. You probably ask them, well, what have you already done to get ready for those goals? What have you considered? Maybe they want to go get a mentor. That's classically something they might do in addition to a coach. A little bit different relationship, but they might have to go convince somebody quite senior to mentor them, maybe not even in their company.
Mhm.
And so you could see where CialdiniBot might brainstorm with them. What are the options they could do to grow? But in addition, if they want to go influence a mentor, or they want to go, they're ready now, they want to go influence the job, it'll give you details on exactly how can you cultivate those relationships, how do you reduce the uncertainty, and how do you get them to act to give you the promotion ultimately. Now, if you're too far away from the promotion, you probably want to go think about with your coach, what do I got to do to get ready and improve myself, or my mentor for whatever those blind spots. And so that maybe there's intermediate persuasion steps of folks around you. I mean, in those leadership roles, do I have enough social capital? I might have to build relationships with lots of people before they're ready to follow me in a
Mhm.
more senior role. And of course, there's sometimes bad blood. If my peer is now my subordinate, they might have hard feelings because maybe they wanted to be the boss. Can I cultivate that relationship well before I get the promotion? CialdiniBot can basically help you think of things you wouldn't have thought of. There are specific areas of Cialdini's model for all of these things.
Mhm.
3 things for relationship cultivation, 2 for uncertainty reduction, and 2 for motivating action. And they're not obvious. Even those of us that are experts at it, I use CialdiniBot myself to see what am I overlooking, because I'm a human too, and I can
Mhm.
overlook these things.
And you're speaking to about Cialdini's. He has the 7 principles of persuasion, and
That's
that
right.
okay.
Exactly.
How did you go about? I mean, yeah, you are an expert in Cialdini's work. How do you go about building an application? Because it seems like there's a lot of permutations to
Yes,
each one of these kinds of persuasions, but
it's true.
yeah, and did it take 15 years to do it? But how do you go about building this kind of an application?
Well, it's so different than when you and I first met, Howard. You and I first met, I was desperately struggling to get large data sets to train the AI
Mhm.
because the science is very, very clear. It's cross-cultural. There's good experiments underneath it. But to get the AI to be at a human level was just a nightmare for the first bunch of years. What changed was last year when OpenAI came out with a technology called ChatGPT.
Right.
That changed everything because basically the AI is already pre-trained. It's kind of like having a student in a class. It already knows a bunch of stuff. It just doesn't know maybe the specific thing you want it to do.
Mhm.
So that was huge because I no longer needed large data sets. You basically just engineer the AI to behave itself according to Cialdini's rules. And on top of Cialdini's rules, I had some psychometric measurements to make sure it's not hallucinating or lying to you, because ChatGPT is great, but 15% of the time it's lying to you in a very clever way. It seems correct, but it's actually wrong. I don't have that problem because I make sure I measure it against Cialdini's model and make sure it's good before it suggests things to people.
When you say you use the term on the website guardrails, are these the
Yes.
guardrails you're speaking to?
That's right. There's 2 kinds. There's an active guardrail where it just prohibits the best AI, which is GPT-4 chat. It's the top large language model from the best AI company.
Mhm.
That's what CialdiniBot uses, but it won't allow GPT-4 to say something that's wrong or low quality. So
Okay.
there's different guardrails there. The passive guardrail is quicker. So a lot of people in chatbot don't want to wait a long time
Right.
because if GPT-4 keeps making mistakes, it's just going to be a pain. So
Mhm.
we mostly have passive guardrails implemented in CialdiniBot. So It's up to you. If you want to get a quick and dirty coaching on persuasion, cool. That'll be very fast. If you really want to measure how you did or what CialdiniBot's recommending and make sure it's really good and you got another moment or two, it only takes about 6 seconds per area that it measures, but you basically use curly brackets to tell it what you want to measure. So this passive guardrail is a little more handy because you don't have to wait if you want something really, really quick. The active guardrail takes longer because if GPT-4 keeps making mistakes, you got to wait till it's correct.
It is interesting. When I first launched the podcast back in 2019, and here we are, I'm in my fifth season, end of the fifth season, and I actually use what I believe is AI, and I definitely use ChatGPT because I will go out there on occasion to ask a question, get some answers, then I go and corroborate, did it give me what I was hoping it would give me, or I learned something new and I fix it. But I use that in the production of my podcast. I use that in the creation of my show notes. What the beauty is, it's like our conversation today is going to get run through an AI engine to give me potential show notes, titles, keywords, which is, it definitely saves me time. It means I don't have to pay a virtual assistant somewhere to do it, which I love. But how can if somebody comes to you and they hear about CialdiniBot, how will you work with them, or what do they need to do to get up to speed and use it? And I want to use the word safely, but you've said this adheres to Cialdini's model. There's these guardrails. You can't force it or ask it to do something it knows it can't do. But how do you begin to incorporate this into your marketing organization, your sales organization, and use it safely and effectively?
Yeah, it's a great question. Instead of thinking about old school programming, which is a real pain and who wants to learn all that, you can think of getting CialdiniBot or other AI to behave itself just from writing in English what you want it to do. It's just that the way it wants to hear that can be better or worse. So it's not purely normal human talk. That it can work that way, but there's a new technology, a new technique that's just English writing called prompt engineering. So what I've been doing with early customers, like for example, there's the Mediation Center of LA I've been talking to. I've known he's a Harvard trained lawyer. I brought him into Merck when I was there. I've been helping them with helping lawyers to use it. Well, prompts, or in sales, there are pre-written prompts that I'm now giving CialdiniBot customers so they could just start there. They don't have to. You can just use your regular English and it'll work. But if you really want it to be top notch for creating a marketing copy, creating a sales script, to simulate objections of a customer that you want to practice in advance, or identify, brainstorm clever ways to respond to the objection in a totally ethical, responsible way, you can emulate this. So I basically have a bundle of prompts that they could just copy paste. And I just put a little bracket saying, replace here the name of your customer, the situation, so that because the AI is so sophisticated, with the right priming, the right prompting, it can give you quite a customized response, but it helps to structure it in a certain way. So just copy paste and tweak the prompt so it's personalized to your situation is kind of my answer to how to make it really maximally useful for you.
And so we've got attorneys, sales and marketing, and big logos, medium-sized logos. How do you coach? What kind of coaching and mentoring is going to go into getting a subscription to this tool? And I took a leap here. How will folks invest in this tool? What's the path for that?
Yeah, great question. So I built this when I showed Bob Cialdini the work. Of course, he was amazed because he'd known I've been working on it a long time and I could just never get it to work properly. But the levels of precision really impressed him. And I've been helping him with his new CEO of the Cialdini Institute, which is a new digital version of his company. So to be fully proficient, to go through all that training and applied coaching is ideal. But even then, even Bob Cialdini himself, drops the ball on his own work sometimes because he's human too. And that's where this is ideally used. Now, you don't have to go through all that training and coaching. It's just better if you do. And so like this attorney I mentioned from the Mediation Center of LA, he's already trained by Cialdini many years ago. That's how I know him. We met through Robert Cialdini. So I didn't need to worry about his lack of knowledge. To your point, it may look a bit strange to someone who's used to sales in a certain way and they don't realize there are these principles. So they may feel a little alien if they didn't get the training and coaching in advance. But I originally built it because the Cialdini Institute wanted to partner with me, and that it made sense since these are my friends and I've worked with them for a lot of years. So
Sure.
that I built it for that purpose.
Okay. I know you have just launched it. It's in beta. If you could paint a picture some years out, a year from now, 5 years from now, how do you see this tool evolving
Yeah,
so that becomes even more useful than it is today?
great question. The underlying approach is a universal assessment and coaching method. It doesn't have to be limited to persuasion. It can be anything you'd normally coach people on.
Mhm.
And for many years, you might remember that I've worked with the International Coaching Federation for a
Sure.
bunch of years.
Mhm.
And one of the things they've had me do this year is help them redefine what coaching is. And they have a lot, 50 plus thousand people
Mhm.
get credentialed. And it's a very painful manual process to go through that, as you well know.
Yeah, by the way, if you can help them get rid of the
Well,
PCC credentialing exam, I will.
I'm doing one better than that. Keep listening because CialdiniBot's right there, front and center, and helping with that. I
Oh,
promise.
okay.
But right now, it's just audio, and they got multiple assessors making
Mhm.
ratings. The level of precision I got with the first version, and what CialdiniBot is a third iteration. It's quite a bit better than my first one.
Mhm.
But the study I presented at Berkeley is 366% more precise than physician credentialing. It's so far beyond ICF.
Mhm.
And of course, how painful was it to just give me? It was just digital exhaust. So instead of the painful once in a blue moon feedback from ICF, I'm talking to them now and with a consortium of coach training firms
Mhm.
to give me samples with the first part of CialdiniBot, ethics and the relationship cultivation are going to be consistent for coaching even as it evolves. That's not going
Mhm.
to change.
Mhm.
And so if I can show them that I can get superhuman level results with
Mhm.
that painlessly, you can see where this goes for coaching, right? What coach wants to take, what human wants to take a long pain in the neck test for
Mhm.
anything
Mhm.
versus you get automatic feedback. And are you consistently high in your standards? And really, it's about performance and the clients achieving their goals, not so much about some box checking activity for the professional association. So that's my immediate next step. Hope to launch that study in Q1 of 2024. If I can show them, then the science is so sophisticated now and my tech is so fast, I can pretty much create an entire ICF credentialing replacement system in like less than a quarter. But the politics, you can imagine how this is going to upturn many coaches' careers. Or the people that squeaked by, maybe they'll be freaked out. Those of you that are already good coaches and you want to continue to get better, this is a dream come true for you. It's only going to be scary to the people that are worried their performance is less than what it should be.
It's funny. There's this app that was built by one of the coach training companies, not the big ones, but they're accredited. I forget what their credential is, but they built this app of like 53 questions. And I went through it this week with another coach. She and I both took the PCC credentialing exam. We both just barely missed it. And my goal was before the end of this year, I wanted to get my PCC for our listeners, professional coach certification. And it was great to actually have a dialogue back and forth with her of which one is the best answer, which one was the worst answer. That model just, it annoys me, but that's besides the point. I'm afraid I just can't wait for you to get done with this work, but I'm like anything that improves this process. But there's a lot of good coaches out there. They're freaked out by the credentialing and renewing the assessment year after year. And just there, like you say, there's these principles, ethics and contracting and what coaching is or it isn't. But there's a lot of good coaches out there. There's a lot of not so good coaches out there. And I love anything that helps improve that process and helps folks become better coaches. That's my long-winded soapbox. I apologize in advance for that.
No,
Yeah.
for me, I'm right there with you, because if you ignore Persuasion and CialdiniBot for a second, the
Mhm.
game-changing part of this is like how painless it is
Yeah.
to get superhuman level results,
Yeah.
right? And that's why I think it's such a game changer. Think about it for the clients of coaching too. You can separately measure how this coach doing. Is the client really taking it all seriously? Like,
Mhm.
you could see where this goes in a way that's painless. Those 13 questions you were struggling over go away. There's no
Mhm.
more questions. It's about, are you able to do the behaviors that are required for excellent coaching? And then on the client side, are they growing to the level they wanted to, given their
Mhm.
goals? And it's not just ICF. It's like any human measurement and feedback, physicians, dentists, lawyers, you could see where this goes. I'm just starting with CialdiniBot. So I'm super excited because it's so painless, so precise, and it's not going to replace you coaches.
Mhm.
It can complement you in between coaching sessions.
And I love to hear that because there is another large coaching organization that brings in speakers year after year. And this one speaker who's been around like forever, he's like, I don't know, maybe one of the current living gods of the coach profession, talks about AI and everybody's freaking out that, oh my God, I'm going to be losing my job, all this training that goes away. And how would and I love that it's not going to replace us, but it's going to make us better. And I think that's the bottom line.
And the client's better, right? It's
Yeah.
like, you coaches can do an amazing job. You've built the relationship, that you're doing everything right. But if the client drops the ball in between sessions, that's not your fault. But what are you going to do to support them? This
Mhm.
is one of those ways. And of course, you'll remember from my last company, if you've got a dashboard where you can see what that client's up to, you at least know, even if you don't want to bug them in between sessions, you at least have a flavor for how they're doing. So this does not replace the human touch, the human relationship. It won't
Mhm.
have that macro context that you have. And we don't feel obligations to pieces of software the way we do each other.
Mhm.
But this can complement it in a way. And before, for 5 years, I lived in India. What are you going to do for coaching in the world's largest country? It's larger
Mhm.
than China now, 1.5 billion people that are very price sensitive.
Mhm.
You got to have something like this for certain audiences. And that's where this high touch, high tech is ideal. But because coaches can't be with the client all the time, this is the next best thing.
Okay. Now, are you open to having, again, be a little self-serving here, someone like me they've listened to this episode, they're intrigued by it. The price point seems right now within the beta very affordable. Are you open to having individuals come in and take advantage of it? Or are you looking for, a large organization that has a cadre of coaches?
Both, all of the above is fair game. And we have many other companies who are talking to us about custom versions of assessment and coaching for things that have nothing to do with persuasion. Diversity and inclusion, for example, is one customer
Mm-hmm.
request. I just got off the phone earlier today with somebody that wants a broader leadership development type of app.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm the CialdiniBot is fair game for individuals, and who's it best suited for? People that really want to persuade for a living,
Mm-hmm.
or they've got some high stakes thing up and coming, like they're trying to go get a job, they got a career change.
Mm-hmm.
But salespeople, marketers, lawyers, leaders, those are like the obvious use cases, because these are people that persuade all the time, nonstop.
All right. So I want to put you on the spot just a little bit. You may not think it's a big spot, but the I don't have time to listen to TV and the debates. Right now, the Republican debates are going on. Traditionally, these folks, before they hit that stage and that podium, they're coached to no end. What's the risk that a Cialdini bot can be used to persuade me to vote for somebody who, at the end of the day, it's going to take our rights away? It's going to
Yeah,
force us to do things, well, we don't agree with. How do we protect against that?
great question. No, that's not at all on the spot. I'm thrilled you asked. I wrote about this in detail in a book I wrote the last book I wrote in Infosys about ethics and the parasitic nature of the folks you're worried about.
Hmm.
And frankly, a lot of my motivation to go into AI was how do we find the guys I worked for, the chairman of Infosys was a wonderful man, but the sociopaths would manage up and he wouldn't see what the trail of dead bodies that everybody else could see.
Hmm.
How do we show it to them in a painless way? And that's to me the opportunity and why with CialdiniBot, the very, very first part of CialdiniBot I built and showed Bob Cialdini was ethics.
Hmm.
And there are three parts in Bob's model. Is it true? Is it natural to the situation? And is it wise for everybody concerned?
Hmm.
And if any one of those three is low, you shouldn't be doing it because it's a win-lose type. And nobody likes to feel manipulated or burned.
Hmm.
And I intentionally, in my validation study that I presented at Berkeley a month ago, I intentionally had some of the world's most notorious and famous for unethical behavior. And a American politician was the lowest scoring. This is including people from World War II, the Hitler types, right?
Okay.
Bill Clinton lying about Monica Lewinsky was the lowest score in my sample for original CialdiniBot. So how do we? I actually measured the first two debates. This week's Republican debate I haven't measured, but I measured all those candidates, and there was variation in ethics. None of them was super smarmy, but there was massive variation, and nobody was awesome with all of Cialdini principles. The maybe surprisingly, the one with the least amount of experience, the least amount of gray hairs, Vivek Ramaswamy, was consistently higher than all of his professional politicians that he was debating against. But that was like the last two debates. I haven't measured this week's
Hmm.
yet, but how do we protect ourselves? For me, it's how do we unobtrusively assess that ethics? And it's
Okay.
not just ethics that we need to trust. I mean, Bernie Madoff is untrustworthy because he's a scumbag, but he knew something about finance. We want both capability and ethics.
Hmm.
So we can measure both with CialdiniBot or that methodology CialdiniBot's using.
Okay. I'm curious, not that I really want to stay on the debates and talk politics. Is this for you to run this debate through the CialdiniBot? Do you actually have to take a recording and
Correct.
load it into
Yeah.
the
Yeah. So
data?
let me walk you through that because a lot of this
Sure.
is free that people might enjoy doing.
Okay.
There's a free AI called Claude 2
Hmm.
by a competitor to OpenAI. I
Hmm.
primarily use OpenAI, but for this purpose, Claude 2 has a free, very, very large, you can paste the entire debate in there and
Hmm.
just say, give me just Nikki Haley's speech. Only give me everything that, that Senator Scott said, or just give me DeSantis. And so that's what I do. I have it only give me what that person said, and then I put that into CialdiniBot as like a preparation type thing. So I'm only measuring one at a time. Same thing in coaching. If you just have a transcript, you want to take out whatever the client said and just measure the coach separately.
What's interesting is when we record this episode today, we're on Zoom. I can get a recording, which is a combined audio, but I
Right.
also record on tracks, which I
Nice.
need to do because I want to adjust. I want to fix if I need to the uhs and the ums and I don't go
Sure.
haywire with it. However, it seems like I could run my audio through CialdiniBot and see how I measured against the Cialdini principles.
You totally could. In fact, one of the things I've done is for a sales company, do it across multiples to show. And so the other thing that CialdiniBot can do, but GPT-4 can do, is write code to show these graphically. So basically, I just would save each one of CialdiniBot's measurements over time, and you could see where across your different episodes, how consistently high are you on all the principles.
Okay. Very
Now, in
interesting.
this use case, you're not trying to persuade, you're interviewing, but
Yeah.
you might find it more valuable for you pitching, maybe influencing your next guest. That might be a better use case for you and
Right.
saving that one.
Right. Very interesting. My mind is racing right now with some other ideas, and this is
Sure.
probably better tuned for conversation afterwards. You're excited. I mean, I can definitely see you were excited when we first met and you were working on Leader App, but there's a whole different level of excitement right now.
It's true. You know why? because
Why?
I've literally since 1986 as an undergrad, I've been thinking about in psychology, we worry about our studies where because people know they're in a study, they change how they are.
Hmm.
It's called demand characteristics. It's no good. We can't generalize from our studies. So my second patent, it's so old. I have so many gray hairs that it's off patent, but it was called the Skinner box for the information age. It was 1996, I think.
Yeah.
That's how old it is. But it was with lasers. So that was I originally built it for lasers, unobtrusive behavioral assessment and feedback. I only really did it for the engineers and semiconductors because I couldn't make the case to do it in HR.
Hmm.
And then Leader Amp, when you and I met, I was trying to do it. I could never finish the Leader Amp stuff really because I'd never had the data sets.
Hmm.
AI requires these huge data sets that are like exponentially bigger than what psychology is used to. And the reason I'm so excited is all these years, I finally can do it and I don't need the big data sets because AI already knows a lot. I
Hmm.
just have to make sure it behaves itself. And so
Okay.
it's like super liberating because I can do all the crap I've been thinking about since the 80s that I couldn't do.
Technology is a wonderful thing. And it's all coming together. And when you're not busy, working with Robert Cialdini, the Cialdini Institute, building CialdiniBot, what else energizes you?
I've got two great kids. One of them is he's working. He took a semester off at UC Berkeley, where he also
Uh-huh.
goes to school,
Uh-huh.
to work on the Cybertruck. So that's really fascinating to hear because it's hardware innovation. And I got a
Mhm.
younger boy about to graduate and a German Shepherd, although I call him an American shedder because he was born here. He's no longer German, and all he does is shed all the time. But he's a lot of fun.
Very good. Very good. And what advice would you give our listeners? I mean, if they want to explore what the capabilities of this app is, this CialdiniBot, but they're still hesitant to tip their toe in the water.
I think that the thing they should think about is what might they be missing
Mhm.
in their most important persuasion situations. This is overkill for certain kinds of persuasion, just everyday stuff. But think about the biggest customer you almost landed and you didn't quite, or that business you're trying to recruit to move to your community and they weren't, and you got a lot of competition. Like those high stakes, what might you be missing? And the reason that's so important is when Professor Cialdini taught me how to teach the class, at the very end of every class I've taught, he lets the students compare themselves in a real example from an American attorney who's never lost a single case, and he's been practicing high stakes law since the 50s. He's in his 90s. His name is Jerry Spence.
Mhm.
And he's taken very brutal cases, but he's never lost even one case.
I know that guy. That name's familiar.
Jerry Spence, he's with the deerskin
Yeah.
jacket with
Yeah.
the frills from Wyoming.
Yeah.
Really neat guy. And if you check him out on YouTube, but it's a real case. And every student who masters these things eclipses, not even close, eclipses Jerry Spence, who's never lost a single case. Why?
Mhm.
Because he was good with a couple of Cialdini principles that he just intuitively figured out. He didn't have the science. He's quite a bit older than Professor Cialdini. So he's been doing law since before Cialdini was even a PhD student in the 60s.
Mhm.
So the things that they are missing in their most important persuasion situations, is it worth $50 a month? Do
Mhm.
you have one of those a month? If so, well, then that's worth playing with. And the prompts that I'm giving away for free right now are ways to get people started. They don't really need those. They just make it that much better if
Mhm.
they really want to take it to the maximum level.
If you and I had not had some history with each other, and I interviewed you because, again, I saw you were going to be speaking at the university, I would be asking myself, how can I be a better coach? So I think I'm a good coach. I think there's still things I do that I shouldn't do. I tend to be sometimes get too consultative and talk too much. Okay. I also have my other area of passion, which is my outdoor podcast and wanting to do more than just the one-off interview. And so I can ask myself this question: how can I be a better coach? How can I persuade organizations to want to let me interview you over a series of interviews, not just the one-off? Because people aren't going to pay for one-offs. I think that's a great investment if I can get better at it. It will have
Totally.
paid for itself. So anyone who is in, like you say, the sales, marketing, persuasion profession, not a bad thing to at least dip your foot in the water and see what happens.
Completely. And I think that's absolutely right. And I think many coaches worry about how to get their next client, and that there's an absolute use case in the sales and marketing. I also think for coaches uniquely, to increase the odds that those people do apply the coaching in between sessions and they don't
Mhm,
drop the ball,
mhm,
this is something that many master certified coaches just don't understand. They don't even realize that asking a question is persuasion.
mhm,
Cialdini calls it persuasion, right? Because you're directing the thoughts of the client. So it's not that you're telling them what to do, but you are directing the way they think about things. And
mhm,
it's crucial. They will not get as much out of your coaching session if they're not deliberately applying it and sometimes making mistakes. So you could see where persuading, once you got the client and the sales and marketing, to get them to get the most out of your engagement so they don't come back to you the next time they didn't do anything, which does happen as coaches know. And
mhm.
or they didn't do it the full distance, that's another angle, a pure behavior change, and getting them to commit, make the change permanent. So hopefully at the end, they're so enthusiastic about the results that they tell their friends, and then that's another part of your sales and marketing.
I love it. And by the way, you just shared and gifted me this aha moment, which I can't share for ethical confidentiality reasons, but I want to thank you for that. Man,
I'm glad.
it's been a great pleasure to get back and have a conversation with you and to hear what you've been up to and to learn about CialdiniBot. And I just think it's fascinating work, and I'm excited for you because all these years of your hard work and your passion is suddenly it's right there for you. And I definitely, for our listeners, I see Matt's energy on the other side of the camera here. So congratulations. This is fantastic.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking about it with you. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Now, hey, before we head out, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and CialdiniBot to put their foot in the water and see what how it can help them in their work, where are the best places for them to go?
Our website is truemind.ai, trumind.ai. That's where CialdiniBot lives. And we have a bunch of videos showing how CialdiniBot works, and also on Twitter.
Okay. Now, are you still active on LinkedIn? Should we send folks there?
Very active. Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. You can see me there, and we also have a Facebook page, but which is less active than LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, we'll provide the backlink to the website as well as to LinkedIn as well. Again, Matt, it's great to catch up with you. I know we're going to continue this conversation, so it's not like until next time, but I do appreciate you taking time out of your day. And I think it's about 5 o'clock somewhere almost, and we can go have our beverage of choice. So again, thank you. It's been a pleasure to catch up and to share your basically your passion and CialdiniBot with our listening community. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks. What a great episode. If you're not excited about CialdiniBot, I don't know what else to say. I mean, maybe I'm just not being persuasive enough, but and Matt hasn't, but this is something worthy of looking at, whether you're in sales, marketing, coaching, building a business, an entrepreneur. This is really bringing the AI and all the Cialdini principles and in a safe and well thought out way through the guardrails. And just go out to Matt's website, truemind.ai/bot, and check out CialdiniBot, learn more about it. And you can also visit Matt on his LinkedIn page, and we'll provide links there as well. But I don't know about you, but I'm excited about this, and I can't wait to dip my foot in the water. Okay. Maybe both feet at the same time. Who knows? Listen, if you enjoyed this episode, do visit us on our website, successinsightpodcast.com. We're going to place this episode under our coaching and consulting insight series. But again, just Success Insight Podcast, you will find it. We are also on LinkedIn and Facebook on our Success Insight Podcast pages. The episode will also be up on YouTube, and we are on all of the leading podcast directories, and you'll be able to find us there as well. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you on a future episode of the Coaching and Consulting Insight series on the Success Insight podcast. Take care now.